to go, Tom.
Thank you, Stone. Before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask George to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Abadili.
Present.
Foster.
Present.
Gilmore present. Hearn.
Present.
Lee.
Present.
Pagney.
Present.
Sampu is not here yet. Administrator Darcy Carley.
Present.
Staff member Kim Kavanaugh.
Present.
Agent Ed Hoops.
Present.
And Catherine Pollack.
Present.
We have a quorum on the floor.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Catherine.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, at 3 p.m. on the application of AAR Legacy LLC, Peter and Maria Smell, trustee, Maria G. Smell, 2022 Qualified Person Residence Trust, George and Lori Ato, Gerald H. Cashews, trustee, the Nikki Laveria Trust. The hearing will be held remotely as televised on the town of the Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending emails request to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and transmitted on the town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, the chairs must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, please make your presence known. Hearing none, this afternoon's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda next to each application is the amount owed to the town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed by the governor on March 29, 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1, the hearing will be televised via the town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. 2, the real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 844-7241-1412 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. 3rd, the public can also email their comments to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Under the old and new business, we have a new staff, a conservation assistant joining us, and her name is Catherine Pollack, or Katie. Email left us in March 21st, and we have a new staff to replace her. Let's welcome her and let Darcy say a few words first.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Yeah, so we're very pleased to have Katie join our team. And right now she's getting her feet wet, excuse the pun, on building permit applications. I believe Katie and Ed went out and did a certificate of compliance inspection yesterday. Getting her signed up with MACC. She'll start the fundamental classes. I believe there's one in June, and she can sign in and use the MACC guidebook. So we're getting her up to speed, and we're happy that she's part of our team. And Katie, you can say hello to everybody.
Unmute yourself first.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here.
Katie.
Katie, could you give us a quick background?
Sure. So I graduated from UMass Amherst a few years back. I have environmental science. I spent a couple of seasons working as a conservation biologist for the Department of Conservation and Recreation. I also worked as a shorebird monitor, a tree planting laborer, and I recently just moved within the past few weeks from Colorado.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, welcome to Cape Cod. Great
Yeah.
background and good luck.
Oh, thank
Well,
you so much for being here. Thank you.
The next item is the revised plan. We have 3 revised plans. The first one is Perry Wentworth, SE3-5990. Arlene?
Good afternoon, Arlene Wilson, A.M. Wilson Associates here for Perry Wentworth. Let me try and share my screen. Bingo.
You're an
So-
old pro now, Arlene.
I'm old, but I don't know about the pro. So what I've done here is to put the 2 plans side by side. This is the approved plan and the changes that we're requesting, some of which have been built. So you can see if we start with the house to the rear deck was from the east side yard previously. That piece of access has been deleted in favor of a set of stairs that come directly off the deck, partly back inside the deck, so that they stay just outside the 50-foot. The 50-foot line is here, and the 100 is here. There have been some changes at the front entrance to the house as well. The front access porch was squared off a little bit, and the shape of the access patio was changed. The location of those stairs was moved over to the east, and they got a little bit wider so that they're a little safer. There was a small piece of retainage that was built in this area. The grades were quite difficult at that location, it turned out. You can see on this plan, there was just lawn that was planned for that area. So there's a little bit of retaining wall, there'll be a planting bed, and a little bit of an extension to the entry porch. The pool got pushed back a couple of feet, and the pool patio shape is significantly changed. It was simply a rectangle adjacent to the pool previously. Now it's got a little step in access, and it connects with a small pool house, which replaced what was going to be a rather gracious multi-bedroom guest house. So the guest house is no more, just the small pool house. The parking court that would have been adjacent to the guest house is gone. So the access driveway simply comes in and curves up along the house. It's this section that was previously authorized. And the block wall was moved closer to the work limit line in here, which allowed it to be shortened rather significantly, so it no longer has to come down and around the corner. This isn't going to work. Let's see if I can make this. Well, the other piece of information that I had up there that I think you all have in your packets is the mitigation sketch. The mitigation plantings were along the north side of the property in the 50-foot buffer adjacent to the pond and the wetland. and then along the west side as well, so that they filled up the 50-foot buffer. There will be no change in the mitigation plan. That will all be carried out. I know Bill was out there today, and things on the outside are not finished, which is why we aren't applying for a certificate of compliance at this time. But we hope all those plantings will be done through this spring and early next fall. They're quite extensive, but I think in the end, things will work out pretty well. And I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
Questions, Bill?
Yeah, I was out there today, and the reason I went out was because if you look at what is on the screen now on the right, which is the revision request, there's all kinds of plantings on the south side and on the east side, away from where the water is, the wetlands, which are basically the north and the west side. And I was confused. I thought, did the mitigation plantings get changed? The mitigation is not on there. And so I wanted to think, I went to see, is there a change in where the plantings are going to be? And when I went out there, I found that, I want to call it, I don't know what, 75, 80% of the plantings that are on the mitigation plantings along the north side and the west side are in. Don't quote me on 80%, but there were a lot of plantings. But there were some gaps in there. There was some winterberry that was basically on the north side, east side, that was missing. So it's sort of spotty. And in the middle of my conversation, the owner was on the phone with Arlene, and next thing you know, I'm talking to Arlene on a speakerphone, and she did indicate that, yeah, the mitigation plantings on the north and the west side were not yet done. So I guess I'm happy. That's why I went, but it is not yet fully mitigated on the north and the west side. Thanks. That's all.
Thanks, Bill. That's why they have not requested the COC yet. So I mean, they have time to kind of build that out on the mitigation plantings. John?
Thank you, Tim. A comment first, Arlene. In your cover letter, you said there was an increase in the 0 to 50 and an increase in the 50 to 100, but then you said, well, but across the total site there was over 1,800 reduced. Just for the record, the 1,800 does not offset the increases within the 0 to 100, especially within the 0 to 50. Just so that comment sort of stuck in my mind. The question I have, though, is that apparently much of this has already been built. I'm curious as to why these are kind of after the fact findings. Why didn't the homeowner or builder come to the commission beforehand or go to you asking for a revised plan?
John, if I could control every contractor that ever worked on a job of mine, I would go to heaven.
You're going to go anyway someday, Arlene. It may not be for a long while.
No, the contractor called several times and said, gee, I'd like to do this. And I'd say, yeah, I think we can do that. Put it on the plan and I'll get it to the commission for a revision. And then I would call a couple of weeks later and he'd be doing something else. And I said, what about the retaining wall? Oh, yeah, you should have that plan back. And then I go out and it would be there and the surveyor would be doing an as-built. I apologize. As I say, it was very difficult in terms of controlling this job. The good news is that everything that happened is landward of the work limit line, and all of the mitigation that's being proposed is still sufficient for the work that's being done. There's nothing else I can say, John.
Yeah, I guess just, maybe if we had looked at this on a proposed revision or something, we might have questioned any more increase in the 0 to 50, at least had the opportunity to kind of review that issue, discuss if there were options. And now, obviously, with the situation as it exists on the ground, we've realistically probably lost that opportunity. And you're right, the mitigation is still good. We may well have approved it, but we kind of lost the opportunity just to discuss that issue. That's a bit concerning. Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, as Bill mentioned, there actually is going to be more woody plantings on the site than there would have been before, because this whole area along the south property line, although it's not all in your jurisdiction, it's a continuous piece of woody plantings that will provide wildlife. And so overall, I think it's better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene, and thank you, John. Sometimes we don't have a control in terms of the contractor schedulings, and it's very difficult. I think this is my opinion. Sometimes it's difficult to time the contractor schedule versus trying to get it permission from the conservation commissions for the revised plan. Just follow it up there. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I do.
Bill.
I have one. We received this revised plan, quote unquote, revised plan, and yet there's no mitigation plantings on that. There's an old plan and it has lots of mitigation on the north and the west side, which is good. Shouldn't the new plan have the mitigation? I'm not sure if that is something that is normally done or what, but here you have this plan and there's no mitigation for it. How does that work?
The mitigation was on a separate sheet. I often do that, Bill, because the plans get so busy, you can't read them. And because there is no change in the mitigation plan that was originally approved, I didn't think it was necessary. I provided a copy of that plan with this application,
Right.
but we haven't put it on the engineering drawing.
That was in the plan, Bill, that I got at least.
But
Separate inclusions for it, but maybe just to be safe, reference that the mitigation plan as a black is included or something like that, just to make sure.
Okay, if you're happy with it.
Sometimes, because usually there is a planting plan. By the time you add the planting plan to the engineering plan, it's both so busy. And that's why a lot of time we separate it. And that planting plan will still be used for the COC. So,
And it was part of the filing, Tom, the revised filing that's in front of us now. So.
right. Could I have a motion to approve the revised plan as submitted?
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster. Elmore, aye. Kern,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next revised plan is Sunset Point LLC SE 3-5842. John?
Good afternoon, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting, representing the applicants. If you give me one moment, I'll pull up the plan for you. I got a lot of plans. Thanks. So this project was for repairs and renovations to an existing dwelling, historic dwelling out on Oyster Harbors, adding a garage and some patios and walkways around that building. This is what's open before you is the approved plan. And I just have that up first so I can kind of highlight, and I did in our submittal package, kind of highlight the areas where we're changing. Probably the biggest changes on this little side patio area. What was roughly 7 by 20 has grown by about 180 square feet, and there's a little fire pit outside of it and a walkway connecting. And what they've done is they've basically trimmed up the patios and walkways in the other areas so that we're not actually adding any hardscape to the property. The mitigation calculations actually went down a little bit. And we haven't changed the mitigation areas per se for those changes in the hardscape. So again, this is that side patio grew to 13 feet. I think it was 7 feet before. In the fire pit and a walkway kind of connecting the two. The other change that we have, do I have the landscape plan open? I don't think I have the landscape plan open. I can open it up. I can also just sort of walk you through it. On the north side of the property, one of the restoration mitigation areas, the landscape plan had called for, I believe, 6 cedar trees to go into that area. And as they've begun the clearing out the invasives and there was some removal of a couple of dead trees, there's still about 12 to 15 significant trees in this area. And so they're hoping to not kind of overcrowd those with additional trees. Instead, they've suggested that maybe there was a existing garden area right along the top of the bank, about another 600 square feet, where they'd suggest instead, let's rip that out and push some of our restoration plantings out into that area. And I'm sorry I don't have that open, but I can work to pull it up while we're working on any questions you may have.
Yeah, it would be nice to show that on the screen because it looks a lot better on the planting plant.
Okay. Yeah, I'll work on that. Maybe
Yeah. Okay, John.
I think that mitigation change is great, but one question I had in your cover letter, you said there was some additional square footage hardscape within the 0 to 50, including that barbecue pit or fire pit. And then you made a comment, however, other areas were trimmed back in hardscape. I'm curious, where was the other hardscape trimmed back? Was it in the 50 to 100?
I'm just pulling up the landscape plan too, so I'm trying to multitask.
Yeah.
I'll pull that up. Flip back to you so I can reshare.
You just where your cover letter said other areas of approved hardscape have been trimmed back, and I just so
like the walkways. There is in total on the revised plan, the approved within the 50-foot was 265, and my calculations do have it up to 279. So there is a little bit more in the 50-foot buffer, 10, 12 square feet.
Yeah.
But in general, the way that they were trimming up was like, it was like a 4-foot wide solid walkway all around the property and down to the dock. And they trimmed that down to like 2.5-foot steppers. And so just little tweaks on all these other areas is how they got it to the point of not being a
and that was in the 0 to 100 at least. It was in the 50 to 100.
And I mean, they did trim up this walkway too. It's still
yeah, I just I'm wondering if Bill Hearn would join me or not on this, but I'm just wondering about putting that barbecue or fire pit sitting area within the 50. There was any chance you can move that back a little bit, get it out of the 50? John, that's the only question I had.
And we can certainly talk about that. I think there was, it's kind of in an area where there was an existing rose garden. I don't know if you can see it underneath our notes here, but there was there was an existing sort of rose garden in this area, an existing trellis part of that garden out in front of it. So they kind of were putting it back in the center of where there had been activity before, but
I have the same thing. When I saw that, I was wondering whether you can pull it back outside of the 50 a little bit on the fire pit. The other question on the engineering plan, there is that square box in front of the fire pit. What is that?
This here, I think that this was when I went back to the plan before, you could see it was there had been an existing trellis, like an arbor outside of this garden area. I believe that's being removed as part of this project.
Okay.
But the label, I think, just got lost underneath the text of existing, but I can still kind of see it there. So that was a feature that was there before.
Okay.
It should be noted that it's not on the plan then, John.
Right. Any other question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Could I have a motion to approve the revised plans as submitted?
Well, you're gonna get that
sorry.
arbor out, right? Out of the plan.
So what Louise is suggesting, submit subject to a revised plan showing that removal, right, Louise?
Right.
Yeah. Could I have
Okay.
a motion to approve the revised plan, but subject to a receipt of a revised plan pulling out the fireplace outside of the 50?
I'd make that motion, then I'd agree with that. If John could live with that.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabadili,
Aye.
Tangny,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last revised plan is Mark and Amy Lund, SE3-5583. It's John again.
Yes, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. I'm just flipping my plans to the right project now. I'll bring them up for you all. This is an order of conditions for a new house pool on Starboard Lane. This was a vacant parcel of land. What's open now is the approved footprint. So again, house, pool, limit of work, vista corridors. The property was cleared. A work limit was established. The property was cleared, but it has since sold, and we are before you with updated building footprints. Slide over. Try to zoom out so it's about the same scale. So again, we have not changed the limit of work. We have not changed the vista corridors. It's really just a change in the footprints of the actual structures landward of it. We have an undisturbed 50-foot buffer. I believe my letter indicated that this provision ends up in less hardscape in the buffer zones, less hardscape in the riverfront area. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think it's hopefully a pretty straightforward change.
Thank you, John. Question from the commissioner. Anyone? Yeah, it looks to be very straightforward, the revised plan. So could I have a motion to approve the revised plan as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sabadili, Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangny.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Good luck, John.
Yep.
We have 7 extension requests. The first one is Karen and Daniel Bear, SE3-5360. And this project has been a lengthy work on the agreements with the town. And I noticed that, David has sent out an email to Darcy and forward to you guys for information. So I think they're still working on the agreement. But let me go to Dave and just to confirm the status. Dave, Anthony?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is David Anthony. I'm Director of Asset Management for the town of Barnstable. Brian Wall representing the clients, the Bairds, and I have been working to finalize a license agreement. There have been several legitimate delays associated with getting this license in place. As recently as last summer, there was legitimate concerns about restricting access to the property, at which point the town and the DPW. We put up a fence with a double lock system with appropriate signage that was put in place last September.
There we go.
And we have the fence in place now, and we've been able to restrict access because there was some concern on the part of the applicant, how they were going to secure the job site with unrestricted access. People were cutting the chain. So a legitimate request and one that took some time to build, but I feel that based on conversation with Attorney Brian Wall, that we are ready to get a license in place and bring this episode to a close.
Thank you, Dave. Brian, do you want to say a few words on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here also together with me is Jeff Plant from Environmental Strategies and Management. I do agree with what Mr. Anthony said. There has been a license in the works for quite some time. There were delays for various reasons. Mr. Anthony and I think, are very close. We have a little work to do on the indemnification language, but I think we're going to come to an agreement within the next week or two. And frankly, Mr. Chairman, it might have happened this week or last week, but I actually came down with COVID 2 weeks ago. So I lost about 10 days. In any event, there's been no regulatory change to my knowledge that would affect this permit. So we're simply asking for a 1-year extension to wrap up the license agreement and then hopefully do the work this fall.
Thank you, Brian. Hopefully you can recover pretty well on your COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am finally feeling better now, but it was my second bout of it.
I talked to Darcy and we agreed that, a 1-year extension would be better for these applications. So,
excellent.
Any question from the commissioner? None? Could I have a motion to approve the extension request for 1 year on this project?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Yes, aye.
Tangy,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
that's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you all.
Nice to see everyone. Welcome aboard, Katie.
Thank you. Take care.
The second extension request is Gregory and Julian Pinto, SE3-5870. John?
Good afternoon, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. This project is completed. The restoration and mitigation work was completed, but Wilkinson felt like one more season under an open order as opposed to doing touch-ups under an ongoing condition would just be appropriate. So, and I think it's expiring this spring or this summer, and they just wanted to make sure they had every availability to keep tackling that through the summer into the fall. And then I think we're ready to move on to certificate of compliance and ongoing conditions at that point.
Thank you, John. And this is the first request as well.
Correct.
So any question from the commissioner? None. Could I have a motion to approve the extension request?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangy,
Aye.
that's unanimous.
Thank you. The next extension request is Thomas Cavallo, SE3-5869. And this is John again.
It is, and it's very similar. The houses, the construction's basically is completed. This house actually ended up getting revised and pulled out of the jurisdiction anyway, but they did go forward with the restoration work along the pond with Wilkinson, and it's in pretty good shape, but they just felt like one more season under an open order as opposed to doing any touch-ups under an ongoing conditions would be better. And so hopefully we're making those final tweaks to it this spring, summer, fall, and closing it out.
Thank you, John. This is a first request too for this permit, seals for this permit. Any question from the commissioner? See none. Could I have a motion to approve this extension request?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. The next extension request is Christian Camp Meeting Association, SC 3-5763. This is a first request as well for Bill.
No, this is Patricia Deaton, and I'll be
Oh, sorry.
handling this. That's all right. I'm president of Red Lily Pond Association, and Bill McKinney is president of the Christian Camp Meeting Association. But since Red Lily Pond has been doing the work on this project, I'll be just discussing the extension, and Bill will weigh in at an appropriate time. So this is
Okay.
to continue the Phragmites removal from the herring run from the Centerville River to Lake Elizabeth. And their work, we've made great progress over the years since this first condition was put into place. So in 2020 was the first year we had volunteers in AmeriCorps doing the work. In years 21, 22, and 23, all Craigville volunteers did the work, which was cutting by hand and then cutting the Phragmites up, bagging them, and taking them to the transfer station to be disposed of appropriately. All of this work was done under the supervision and reports filed by Cameron Larson at ECR for each of those years. And we have seen progress in removal of the Phragmites and the lack of growing back. But the extension was requested because we know if we stop, the Phragmites will grow back. So we feel that we know that we need to continue doing this work. So that is my request. And Bill, if you have anything you would like to say, or yeah, there you are. I see you.
Bill, you want to say a few words?
I would just say we're very proud of the volunteers who have come forward. We've had a dozen or so guys in their 70s and 80s out there in the mud.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any question from the commissioner?
Yes.
John?
The write-up Darcy talks about this has to be done annually in a kind of continuous basis. Could this not be handled under an ongoing certificate of compliance, or is the extension a 3-year extension right away to go?
Actually, with Phragmites removal, they could request to do it as an ongoing condition. Just it would be one where the commission would want to make sure, being with the volunteers, that it's covered not only at the one time we had MEA there in the stream with them, so we would just want to carefully follow it with reporting and everything. So it's something that the commission could look.
Yeah.
Could do.
The reason I raise it because it says in here it's going to be done annually in order to contain invasive, and the next one would be the same. So they're going to have to request probably whenever they come for a certificate, annual monitoring, treatment, etc., which we've done before. We've allowed that. So I just wonder whether they would be better off going for an order of conditions with a continuing condition in it. But I have no problem with granting the extension, unless you do, Darcy.
I am fine with the extension, and then let's say at the end of this 3 years extension that they come back and ask for the certificate with ongoing conditions.
That's great.
Yeah. I think we should go through the extension for now and then come back at the end of the 3-year term to change the conditions. Any question from the commissioner?
I would have one question. Kind of a controversial question. I know that we occasionally approve herbicide treatment, and for this, that, and the other. And I'm wondering, I can't remember if we've done agreed to herbicide treatment for Phragmites. And I'm just wondering, some people go, we don't want to deal with herbicides, but would that be an option available to them, Darcy? I guess I'm asking you, Darcy.
I'm just trying to recall, but I think it was because of the area. It was a herring run. They were having volunteers that were willing to go in and do this by hand instead of having licensed applicators. So that was the way they rolled. I think it's just
I'm
And
not
it was like, it
advocating
was,
for it,
yeah,
you know,
kind of sporadic
But,
areas that
you
it
know.
was in, so.
10 years in, it could be like, we'll never get rid of this stuff, you know, I mean, I don't know.
Could I have a motion to approve this extension request?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Thangy,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. The
And
next
thank
one
you.
is Red Lily
Thank you.
Pond Project Association, SE3-5762. Patricia, you're on again.
Yes, I am, and I will be short again. So this one relates to vegetation management on the embankment of Lake Elizabeth. And this is kind of a reverse one where CCMA owns Lake Elizabeth, but we are doing the work under our permit for this one. So in this permit, we were allowed the opportunity to hand clip or pull invasive species. And we did that in 2022 for the first time. Contractor said he did quite a bit of that. In 2023, did very little because not much had grown back. And then we're evaluating it for 2024. It also allowed for replanting of a number of native plants. And that was done under the consultations and approval through ECR with the Conservation Committee office. And we planted a number of plants in 2022, but it was also the year we had a very, very dry summer and they did not make it. So that was a disappointment to all of us. And then related to this is that we also are mowing the embankment to about 4 feet from the edge of the road down toward the lake, which never gets to the lake. And we're very careful about that. So we did submit a report on the planting in 2022, but we did not. Our for some reason didn't focus on it. We did not submit a report on the cutting in 2022 and 2023, and we would obviously be glad to submit that report to the office. We would like to get this continued as well for the same reason as the Phragmites, that as soon as we stop this work, the overgrowth will again take over the lake embankment, which is actually looking pretty good right now, but still has a great deal of growth on it. And we may attempt, I would like to see it continued. We would, for native planting again, we may attempt to do that again, but perhaps at a better time of year where they have more of a chance of taking root before it gets as hot as it does in the middle of the summer.
Thank you. Question from the commissioner.
Excuse me, Tom,
Yes, Stacy.
just for clarification. Just caution as far as ongoing conditions for work on banks and removal of invasives. It's like we do have a condition that we allow for Phragmites, but a lot of times if it's not requested in the notice of intent to ask for ongoing conditions and the commission put that in the special conditions, it's not always a guarantee. So this is something I can't definitely say that they would be granted the ongoing conditions on this.
Thank you for mentioning that, Darcy.
Yeah.
Any other question from the commissioner? Could I have a motion to approve this extension request?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Thangy.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Patricia.
And thank you very much.
The next extension request is Claudio and Maria de Leticia, SE3-5882. Who is in here for that? Claudio, do you want to speak?
Sure. So we purchased the home back in 2021 with a building permit and approval from the commission to construct a new single-family home along with the carriage house. We have yet to start that. But within the next 4 to 6 months, we would like to start construction on the carriage house. And then once that's complete, knock down the main residence and construct that. So we are just requesting an extension so we can move along with this work and get it done because we are due to expire shortly.
Thank you. And this is the first request. Any question from the commissioner? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the extension request?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abedili,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Tangny,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
The last extension request is Joshua Gravy, SE 3-5704, Kearney.
Hey, Tom, this is Paul Mancuso.
Oh, sorry.
Filling in for Kieran.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so this was a raise and replace of a single family home. I have not been to the site, but Kieran told me he was just there a week or so ago, and the house is nearly complete, but they still got a little bit of work to do. And then there's a decent amount of plantings associated with this project that will still need to go in. So they're just looking for an extension to get everything done. I believe everything's still going according to plan.
Thank you. Again, this is a first request. Question from the commissioner? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve the extension request?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abedili. I'm sorry, John, did
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Lee,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Tangny.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck, Paul.
Thank you very much.
We have one RDA this afternoon. It's AAR Legacy LLC proposed Vista Corridor at 671 Old Post Road, contoured as shown at Assessors Map 054, Parcel 013-001. John?
Good afternoon, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting, representing the applicants. This is a historic home on Old Post Road. It was built in around 1920. We were before you relatively recently for renovations to that dwelling, an addition of the pool and garage, etc. That work is completed. The house has historically had a pretty much expansive vista across the back. It had not historically been permitted. And so with the applicants, we're before you trying to maintain an existing vistas. I think the landscape designers have come up with a plan here showing corridors. I think that, you know, in our opinion, this is, again, currently one pretty expansive vista. And what we're doing is actually making it smaller by allowing some areas in between to naturalize. I was happy to see when I was staking this out that, and I hope maybe some of you noticed that, you know, some of the mitigation, including trees with the house, were put in these, you know, not to be vista areas. So they really are working towards, I think, trying to make this more compliant. So I think with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. John?
Yeah, I was out there a little while ago, John, and I got to tell you, I mean, this place is vistas that only God dreams of. It's incredible. You know, it's got a fairly steep bank. I don't know why you would need to maintain those shrubs down there at 6 feet high. The bank doesn't look all that stable. I'd hate to see that. I also would ask Darcy or John, what % of this lot frontage is being asked for in Vista Corridor for 3 of them? And Darcy, what do we normally give for that we like to see for a Vista corridor as a percent of the property?
I can't remember exactly what your what the commission has for a percentage, but this seems when you look at the corridors all added up together, it's more than 50 or 60%. So.
Which is very, very high. And again, if you just sit out there, the house is high, it slopes off. They've got a view now that, again, I was in awe when I went out there. I don't understand why we would approve this much Vista corridor on that property. And I don't understand why we would limit the height of those shrubs, which are way down on the bottom. That's just my view.
And so if I could respond to that, I don't think that we are trying to create additional Vista with this project. We understand that there is existing Vista out there. We are requesting permission to be able to maintain that into the future. And so, you know, I think that if the vegetation, the understory at the top of the bank grew to 6 feet high, I think that would very quickly significantly impact the Vista out of that property. But I'm working on the sort of percentages for you too on the side.
Thank you, John. Louise?
I agree with John Abadili in his observations. It really is wide open. There are several really tall pine trees and they've been limbed way up. So, and they're beautiful. But I think that this seems like a lot of Vista corridor. And I'm wondering if we might eliminate the corridor all the way to the left, as well as the spaces between the middle and the eastern corridors. So they would have the two corridors in the middle and east and leave the space to the west alone. That would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Bill?
Yeah, I regret not making a site visit. So I guess I just want to defer to John and Louise. I'm supportive of what they come up with here.
Thank you, Bill. Angela?
Same thing. This resource area, I don't feel that the impact in the future, if they keep these corridors as big as they have them, to me is a detriment to what we're supposed to be protecting. So I'm agreeing with all the rest of the commissioners. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
To do the math, I think we are less than 50%. We're like 43%. And again, I can't say enough that we understand there is a spectacular vista out there. And we are recognizing and allowing that corridor is going to be narrowed by not maintaining a lot of areas, more than 50% of the property that's, you know, for 100 years been maintained. And this isn't about any work today. This is about just, you know, trying to make sure that in the future things can be done in compliances out here.
The only question though, this was not previously permitted as a Vista corridor stuff, and you're trying to permit it. So that is the issues.
I understand.
In the past, we have typically trying to maybe narrow down to like 2-view corridor, and maybe the percentage and stuff like that. The only issues here too is this is an RDA. We don't have and options. It's either you withdraw or we deny. That's the only option that I can see. John?
Yeah, I think you said it well out, Tom. I mean, John, you're going from, you know, what is not a legally under conservation rules established corridor that exists and saying, oh, gee, we're cutting down on that. Well, that's kind of thinking that I don't understand, to be honest with you. So I look at this relative to now having legally approved Vista corridors. I think it is, given what's there, I think it's a substantial amount, an excessive amount that you're asking for. And again, I suppose we can debate this, but I think, you know, if you wanted to maintain those shrubs at, you know, 6 to 9 feet, 6 to 8 feet or something like that, fine. But a 3-foot shrub there, I think would really be hurting that bank. I really do. And hurting wildlife, et cetera. So I would go with maintaining those. I would shrink the corridors. I think Louise had a good suggestion, and I would, if you wanted to top those trees, the shrubs, it would be at a 6 to 8 foot height, in my opinion, having walked down there and looked at it.
Thank you, John. John O'Day. Like I said, this is an RDA. We don't have an options of approving this, waiting for a revised plan submittal. So think about it. Either with withdraw, if you want to have a vote, this would be a positive vote, and then if you withdraw, you can refile and change it. So,
well, can't we say we approve it, but with the following modifications?
No, I don't think so.
No,
No.
can't do that.
No.
We need to have a plan
Yeah.
that's
We don't-
approved by the
Yeah.
commission.
Understood and noted. I think that I would request to withdraw this application.
Thank you. Thank you for the understanding. So you can take a look and you can look at our comment and then address it on the revised plan and submit it again. So that
Not revised, yeah, RDA, a new RDA filing.
correct. Right. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
John has withdrawn this application on the RDA. We have 3 NOI. The first one is Peter and Maria Smells, trustees. Maria G. Smell, 2022 qualified persons, residence trust to install float piles at 339 Eel River Road, Osterville, as shown on the assessors map 115 parcel 030. John.
Good afternoon, John O'Day, Sullivan Engineering Consulting. I will bring up the plan for you. I am shuffling my paperwork. This is an existing here. Eel River. I believe it was permitted in the 70s. I believe it had been in long existence before that. Read the narrative more carefully, but I think it's a pretty straightforward. The float is secured to the dock by like a metal bracket right now hinge, and they would like to get rid of that and have float piles like pretty much everybody else on the water does these days. A request actually came to us through the floats winter storage person. I think that, it must not be fun to take that bracket in and out every year. And the owner said, do whatever we have to do to make this work for them. So here we are. I think it's a pretty minor change, pretty consistent with everybody else out there. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. John, what is the size of the pile? Is it 12 inch?
Yeah, 10 to 12 inch piles.
Thank you. Bill?
The float is a seasonal float, right? You take it out.
Correct.
Is that right?
It's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
and it will continue to be a seasonal, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Louise?
So, John, is the footprint of this array the same as what you've got now, with the exception of the increase due to the presence of the piles?
Yes, not moving the float, no changes to the structure.
Okay, thank you.
George?
Yeah, and I can also confirm, I used to take that float in and out, and that bracket was a pain in the neck. So this is a better operation.
Thank you, George. Bill?
Yeah, Liz Lewis said that there were a substantial number of mercenaria, cherry stones, quahogs, what have you. And she just recommended that you move them out of the area. You're planning to do that, right?
That can be coordinated with them, sure. Yep.
Darcy, didn't you say you would include that normally in the order?
Yeah, it's good. I do a boilerplate condition, it says give them 21 days, but I would just recommend that the commission do a special condition that, just to make it clear that there will be notification and plenty of time for MEA to move the cohogs.
Super.
Okay. Any other comment from the commissioner? So for other comments, Waterway has approved this projects and DMF has no recommendation for sequencing, timing, or method that would further avoid or minimize impacts to marine resource for this projects. Any public comment, Chandlerwick team?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project subjects to one to arrange the coordinations with the MEA to remove the cohogs prior to the piling installations?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Cavadilli,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Agni.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Abstain.
Thank you. Good luck, John.
Oh, there's Pete.
Thank you.
Welcome, Pete.
I just got in.
We got Pete at four o'clock.
Hi, Pete.
Hey, hey.
The second NOI of this afternoon is George and Lori Alta. Proposed extension of existing pier, ram, and float at 306 Long Beach Road, Sanderville, as shown on the Assessors Map 185, parcel 024. Mark?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, representing George Etar for this project. So there's a pretty thorough notice of intent there for you. There was a shellfish survey done on our own accord. The means for the project. So a little back history. Mr. Etar purchased the property a short time ago, a year or two ago, I think. He's on the line too, the site was in its current condition. And I went out there and looked at it. I compared his permit plans, and somebody miraculously had extended one of the floats. So I said, you got to return it to its permitted configuration. And then he was concerned about the boat and the floats grounding out at low tide. And I believe there's some pictures in the notice of intent that show that clearly. The kind of interesting thing is that the license plan that I have for it shows the float grounding out, which is kind of odd to me. But nonetheless, we wanted to improve that situation as much as we could so that the boat and the float were not grounded out at low tide. I'm sure you guys can certainly understand why we'd want to do that. So I went through the calculations, which are in detail in the narrative on page 1. I did
Mark,
yes.
Can you show the plan? Can you show the proposed plan?
No, I can't. I'm on a laptop instead of my desktop, and the plan's not on this computer. Can Darcy bring it up? It's on a PDF.
Yep, it's going to give me some time. I wasn't ready to do this. Thought you would be.
I have
So,
plenty of talking I can do.
hang on.
Yeah.
You can keep talking. It's going to take me a minute.
Yeah, I have plenty to talk. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
In the future, I'll load it on this. I've never actually shared my screen before in 3 years, but I'm sure I can handle it. Anyway, moving on. So I looked at the calculations. I did them in detail. They're in the narrative. And my calculations yielded a distance of 9 feet that we could go out. And that's what's proposed. One of the floats would be shortened back to its permitted distance of 8 by 16. When we do that, the floats move out and they're in a foot of water at low tide, which is awesome. The boat also is in plenty of water now. The dock, initially, the dock needs to be rebuilt. It's pretty rickety. So the proposal before you is both to extend the dock a little bit and move the floats out 9 feet, but to completely rebuild the dock as well. Now we're also going to raise it up about 2 or 3 feet to give it clearance over the salt marsh and the proper clearance for Chapter 91. Now, the Chapter 91 plans showed public access up and around the beginning of the dock. That's okay, but in reality, they would have to climb up the short little revetment that's there and then go around the lawn and then back down again. So one of the other reasons for raising the dock up to an approved height would be so that now public access can be allowed under the dock with 5 feet of clearance at mean high water. So we're raising the dock up. That improves lots of things. We're extending it a little bit. We're extending the float out 9 feet. That improves the clearance under the floats and the boat. The only other thing, part of the project is apparently in front of the dock area is a low spot and it puddles. So the applicant wants to just put some extra loam and seed in there and just bring it level with the surrounding area. And I outlined where that is. It's like 50 square feet or something like that. Because he's raising the dock, he will need an access ramp now to get from the beginning of the dock back down to the lawn. So we did a shellfish survey, as I said. Now we went and we just, like at 3 o'clock, got the Division of Marine Fisheries comments for this, which I'm happy to read. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll read what their suggestions are. So they're saying that grounded floats can disturb bottom sediments, resulting in turbidity and direct impacts to benthic habitat. To minimize impacts, DMF recommends that the bottom of a proposed float be at least 2.5 feet above the substrate over map shellfish habitat. The entire floats as proposed would not maintain this minimum clearance. Therefore, they recommend installing float stops to maintain a 2.5 foot clearance above the substrate at mean low water. Second recommendation is any piles that be removed should be fully removed from the substrate rather than cut at the base. They will, since the area is suitable for shellfish. Third was any activities requiring a barge should be restricted to 2 hours before and after the high tide to prevent barge grounding. No worries there. Last one is fuel spills from refueling would adversely impact resources. So if equipment is refueled on site, adequate containment and cleanup material should be required to minimize impacts. That was what the DMF had to say. Moving on, now I was informed just a couple of days ago that this is going to go before the Shellfish Advisory Board, I guess, tomorrow. So we may be headed for an extension no matter what. The last thing I want to discuss was we did go to Waterways. They managed to squeeze us in, which was very gracious of them, the day that I filed. So I went before them and they measured the same as I did, approximately 80 feet from the abutting float that's shown on the aerial portion of the plan to the left of where Darcy has it on the screen. Anyway, between the abutting float across the river and the back end of the new position of the float, yes, that's 80 feet. For some reason, and I strongly disagree with this, but for some reason, Waterways felt that that wasn't enough room for 2 boats to pass. And that distance is fully available at low tide because we have, this project would have over 5 feet, almost 6 feet at the end of the float. So that depth is available right up to the back of the boat. And of course, the other float across, they're at minus 6 NEVD 88, so maybe 5 feet of water. So the whole width of this waterway is available at low tide. I can't imagine why or how 2 boats could not pass here. If they can't pass, honestly, they shouldn't be in the water. And I know you laugh, and they did that too. And they said, but unfortunately, it happens. Okay, I get it. But you know, you and me and the Conservation Commission and the Waterways are not responsible for how people drive their boats. The regulations are in place to reduce crowding. I agree. Bottom line is they did not recommend approval of this project, and I was a little bit stunned. And I told them, I said, this is in my calculations, this is in accordance with the regulations that are set forth. I said, as long as my calculations are correct, we have, by right, we should be able to go out this 9 feet. And I can't imagine why 80 feet is not insufficient room for 2 boats of the boats that are in this river to pass. It makes no sense to me, but that is their ruling. They are an advisory board, as you know. So that brings up a moment for discussion as to how we proceed from there. And I think beyond that, I guess I'm ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Bill?
Yeah, I had two particular issues. One was the width, and I looked at it from an aerial standpoint, and 80 foot or 90 foot looked really narrow. And I was thinking that my vote would be highly dependent on what the waterways and the harbor master thought. I thought this is important from a navigation standpoint. And with regard to your comment that, well, two boats can go, and at low tide, you still have all that water. I'm thinking, well, at the end of your dock, you have a boat and it's grounding out. So you're talking about a very, very shallow wetted river at, 80 or 90 feet. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I want to defer to the harbor master and company for that. The other question I have concerns, you want to jack it up 3 feet, and right now it's about 2 feet, so it's about 5 feet and clearance on the dock. And I thought, well, that sounds good for fishermen from an access standpoint, but what is the clearance when it's at mid or high tide? Can people actually get past the dock then?
Well, no one would be strolling along the shoreline then. High water's up against the revetment, so they wouldn't be. It would be waiting at that point. So DEP wants us to maintain 5 feet of clearance at mean high water. And that is what it is, but right at mean high water is the base of the rock. So most of the time, somebody could crawl under there if they wanted to, and then at a high tide, it's certainly a storm tide, they would be waiting. To answer your other question about the boat, so the bottom dips off at a pretty good angle here. So the back of the boat is no problem. It has no problem now. There's plenty of depth for the back of the boat. It's the front of the boat that sits on the mud currently when the boat is flush with the back of the floats. And there's a picture in the filing that shows that. So that with the floats, the front part of the floats, the landward side, that's the problem that we're trying to solve. I guess that probably addresses what you were saying, Bill.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay.
Let me go to the other.
I'm here.
Yeah. Luis?
Well, a couple of things. I was at the site, and just standing there, the distance between where the dock is now and where it would be across to the structure of the guy across the way, it looks really short. So I can understand why waterways would come out that way. Excuse me. If I look at the depth that you're proposing for the modification at the stern of the boat, it's 8 feet. That's a lot of depth. And so I'm just wondering, I heard what you just said about that the problem is not with the stern, it's with the bow. But I'm wondering if maybe you could get some needed benefit by shortening the extension that you're proposing. And still, what is the depth? What's the draft of your boat with the motors down?
I think the draft. Oh, I put that in the narrative. So let me.
All right, I'm sorry, I don't remember. But
I don't remember.
I mean, you could do an analysis and figure it out, and maybe you really don't need all that length.
Okay, so so first of all, also this is a shared use dock. So this is a 4-unit building, and the dock is shared by at least 2 of them. So there's 2 boats at the dock currently. That's why the floats are arranged the way they are.
Well, maybe we look at that also. in
Yeah.
terms of arrangement of the boats, and should there be 4 boats there? Is that what the situation is? How
No,
many boats?
there's only 2, and there's always only been 2. Not sure what they would do with 4, but there is definitely 2. Those are shown in the aerial on the plan.
Okay.
And I did list them in the site description. So the one boat, it draws 22 inches. That's the online specifications.
Put the motor down.
I don't know that. And unfortunately, the online specs don't give you that information. But one would assume a boat this size, if it was a 10-inch prop, let's say, if it would draw another 10 inches, so 32 inches maybe. But there's plenty. There's 5.8 feet of water at the back end of the boat at low tide. That's not the problem. And the issue is the floats and the boat on the seaward end.
Well, the floats you can deal with pretty much with float stops, right?
You could.
So the issue is really the boat.
Yeah.
So maybe if you looked at that creatively, you could get both what you need and what the waterways people are looking for. Instead of, I want to add 9 feet.
In order for the bow to be in even a foot of water, the boat would have to be where it is, where we're proposing it. If it's landward at all, then especially at extreme low tides, the bow is just going to bounce off the bottom. So the position of the floats, my first question to the board would be, do you agree with my calculations?
Well, could you reorient, if you had one boat, say, could you reorient it instead of having it oriented parallel to the length of the dock, for example, have it perpendicular?
I don't. Well, if you did that,
right,
if you did that, I'd have to put one boat on the inside. I'd put the small boat on the inside of the floats.
Yeah, I don't want to solve this with you because it's your project, but I'm just wondering if you could creatively look at it and come up with a solution that would make everybody feel more comfortable.
I understand. We did look at rotating the floats, but these are the floats that he was permitted for, and there's not enough of them to dock the 2 boats on the outside. So the problem becomes he'd have to dock one of the boats on the inside and one on the outside. Obviously, the bigger boat will go on the outside. But I tried this option, and I don't think there's enough water even for the little boat on the inside if we don't go out.
Well, you're focusing on what you were permitted. Maybe you're looking for a different permit from us, so you have flexibility there. And I'm just asking you to look at it. You say you have, so maybe that's a dead end. I don't know.
But I did provide an alternatives analysis, and we did look at that. Yes, I could look at it again to see if we can squeeze the little boat landward. But he is, and help me out with this since this is a shared dock. He is permitted for the 2 8x16s. That's more than 200 square feet that a new dock would normally be allowed. That's why we were staying with the permitted configuration. So in a shared use, does he get more float allowance?
Was he permitted for 2 boats?
He was permitted for 2 floats, 8x16.
2 boats. 2 boats.
I don't know. This was way back. It might. I have no idea.
We didn't permit the boats way back, Luis.
Right. In the old days, there is no boat specified for that.
All right.
There's 3 boats in the aerial. I just wanted to point that out.
This what?
There are 3 boats. Granted, one looks like a
Oh, it looks like a little inflatable.
yeah, but you do have 3 on your aerial.
Okay,
Right.
I agree with you. I actually didn't see that, but that looks like a little inflatable. I'm not too worried about that. It probably draws 3 or 4 inches of water, if that. At any, so my main question to the board is that if I've done the calculations correctly, and I hope I have, and we're allowed by the regulations to go out this 9 feet, does that present a problem?
Well, this is my comment. Okay, John can correct John. Our John can correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think you have a by right based on the regulation that you can extend whatever the length of the pier that you want. We still have to kind of respect what the waterway says about the navigation channel, and that is critical as far as I'm concerned. Because by right, I cannot say that is by right because each case is different. In your case, you may be limited by what the waterway would approve you. And we weigh heavily on the waterway to make that comment. That's my perspective. John, what do you think? Did I say wrong?
Why don't we go to Pete and George? They had their hands up.
Okay. Pete.
Well, thank you. I would like my fellow commissioners and the applicant to draw a line between the two adjoining docks to the east and west of the one in front of us. And it seems to me that what is there now actually corresponds with the distance maintained of a navigational width to the other side of the floats. What is before us as a request is an extension further than either of the docks to the east or the west. So that to me supports or leads me to at least caution that which waterways mentioned to us as to the navigability. I'm not the harbor master, but Chairman Lee, as you said, we do lend some pretty valid strength to recommendations that we have from our harbor master, from waterways. So I think I have, again, Darcy and others have mentioned that the boat, this largest boat that is there right now, it's before we actually were worried or permitting about boats. And in the current condition, again, as Louise said, it's easy to put float stops on the floats and they're not going to ground out. So I guess the question is the larger of the two, or the largest of the three boats that are there. Perhaps George or John, both of them masters of boats, larger boats. Does a boat tied up to a dock need to have its engines in line with the very end of that dock? Or could a boat of the size that is there have its rear end, so to speak, sticking out a couple more feet so that that bow is not grounding out at mean low? Frankly, we do not necessarily worry about mean low. We do all of our calculations and all of our stuff generally on just mean low. So I've got a question for my fellow commissioners and an observation that I have about this sticking out beyond the neighboring docks. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Mr. Chairman, can I just comment on his comment, please?
Sure.
So you got to remember that the floats that are parallel to the shore on either side of this dock don't have a boat on them at the moment. If you offset the edge of those floats out another 10 feet, if you allow for a 10-foot wide boat, which my client is telling me that one of them has. So if you to offset the outside of these floats 10 feet and then draw a line across, we're slightly landward of that line. And yeah, if you were to tie the boat with a spring line and get the butt end out, the stern out into the water, isn't that kind of effectively the same thing as what we're trying to do with the floats? Because it's always there. So my point is that we're really not extending out beyond the people on either side of us, because you've got to envision a 10-foot wide boat there, and then we're all in line.
But I don't think that's actually what waterways, harbor master, or we often deal with. I mean, so
no.
You and I might disagree, sir, but that's an observation that we sort of stay with on a fairly regular occasion. What are the abutting docks like? Thank you.
Okay.
Bill, let me go to George.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I did draw a line between those docks on both sides. And the new proposal is actually a full float length past that line, so 16 feet past. And, you know, all these particularly up in this end of the river, Mark, all these docks are sticking out almost exactly the same, all the way up this river. It was done for a reason. It was established that way for a reason. When I look at this, if it looks to me that if you could turn that float at that extension line, your big boat could be on the outside with 5 feet of water, and the small boat could be inside the float with between 3 and 4 feet of water. Just to me, it seemed like the most formidable and admissible thing to do there. But like I said, I know I've worked up there for years and years and years, and it was always, we can't stick out any further than the two docks next door to us. And that's why everything is in just such a nice line, almost entirely there. So I think you got to relook at it.
Well, yes, I can certainly take another stab at it. My question to the board is, since this is a shared use dock, how much float is he allowed? How many square feet is he allowed? In other towns, it's 300 for a shared use. He's got 256 right now. So how big could we go?
Well, my first impression is that we don't set a certain square footage on the float. For each application, it's by its own, determined by its own justifications. John can chime in. John raised his hand.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was out there, Mark, I noticed that virtually every other dock, the floats are parallel to the shoreline, except for this one. I also would say that, you know, the one across the river, I don't know what the boat is that the person docks there, but there's a beam in that boat that would take part of that waterway for navigation. It would be a real concern. I think Pete's idea of, can you shorten up the floats of the pier that you're asking for and maybe tie the boat a little bit differently? If it's an open boat, Pete, the problem may be getting on and off the boat. I don't know the specifics of the configuration. So when I looked at this thing as a boater, as somebody who's been up and down the Centerville River, it is tight. I think that George's point is excellent. If you look at how that river is laid out, the docks are laid out, I think you got to be concerned, Mark, with what you're asking for. I for one, would clearly support in an association dock where there's multiple homeowners that can use that dock, something larger than the 200 square feet that the regulation talks about. I would have no problem with supporting more floats, especially since you've already got 2 floats approved there. For me, that would be kind of an easy thing. So I would like to see you look at this thing by saying, okay, if I had the 2 floats that exists, or maybe even something a little bit larger, not a lot larger, what then could you do if you put the floats parallel, not perpendicular to the shoreline, and shortened it up? I think that, to me, would be an option that's worth looking at.
Okay, well, that was one of the concerns that we had in the design option phase, was if I just turned these to 32 feet of floats wasn't enough float to dock 2 of those boats,
right,
end to end, and that's the safest thing for both of the boats. So now that I know that that's an option, I'll look into lengthening those floats a little bit and see what we need to put 2 boats on the outside, and I'll start it like I'll take the floats that are out on either side, offset a line 10 feet to allow for a 10-foot boat at either side, and then hopefully nothing I do, including this boat that's here, would be out beyond that line. So I'm happy.
That would be great. I would like to, I'm sorry for interrupting, Mark, but I think it's important to add for the record that we are not, the 200 square foot rule, we've been uniformly applying that when you're talking an owner. I think we have been consistent in saying where there is quote, an association dock with far more flexibility on the size of the floats.
Great.
Just for the record.
Thank you. I didn't know that that option existed, so that helps my design much greatly. Thank you.
Well, let me say a couple of things here. Number one, yes, we have done that, approved more than 200 square feet if it is more share pier and so forth in terms of the floats area. And secondly, I just want to mention that once we're going in, I know previously this pier does not have a number of boats that permitted, but once with these modifications, your number of boats will be limited with the draft condition and so forth. So any change in terms of the boat would have to come back to the commissions. So just to give you a heads up. So
well, Tom, excuse me, but that's assuming that what he comes back with constitutes a substantial change.
Correct.
In the dock.
Yeah.
That's an issue to be addressed.
Correct. But I don't know throw it out that those are some of the conditions could happen.
Could happen.
That sounds like something subject to interpretation.
Yes, it does.
It does.
We've been pretty lucky in that interpretation.
I understand. I can tell you from experience that while I would like to, if I narrowed the floats to 6 feet, then I can make them much longer and keep the square footage down. But I can tell you from experience, a guy like me on a 6 foot float is fine. But I have a client that's not this guy. I have a client that's much heavier than me, and 6 foot floats don't work. They're just not. They're too tippy.
I suspect George Gilmore would agree with you.
No, actually, I'm not. I'm not going to agree with you. I think in this case, a 6 foot wide float with sufficient flotation under it would be just fine. I would caution also going along with what Tom said about doing too much expansion because then you might get into the rule that says this is a significant expansion of the dock, and now you're going to be subject to draft regulations. I still go back to Mark being able to slide a boat on the inside of that smaller boat on the inside of the dock. I see no problem with it, but that's up to you.
Yeah,
but I think going to the 6 feet is going to help you two ways. It's going to give you two more feet of area behind the dock for more water, and it'll give you more square footage to work with.
Yep. I might do a hybrid and use the more width stability of an 8 foot attached to a 6 foot, and then that makes the 6 foot almost as stable as the 8 foot.
Yep.
So there's a couple of ways to skin the cat. I need some time to do that.
Yep. That's all part of the engineering when you're trying to design the floats. And George's comment is, and you should take that comment because it's this is a freebie. He's not charging you for his knowledge. Louise?
I appreciate that.
I just wanted to say about a couple of things. One, George's comment about be careful because if you make, I think this is what you said, George, you make too much of a change, it's going to be a substantial change, and then you're subject to the current regs. And I would say that may not be bad. I mean, it's good for us, but if they have a workable plan that gets it to be substantial, well, okay. I mean, if they meet the current regs, everybody's happy. So I just say that. Now I've forgotten what the other, we were kind of, and maybe this isn't important, our lawyer on the commission can tell me I'm wrong, but it seems like there's been some kind of loose conversation about shared docks and association docks. And I don't remember anything said about associations being here or a neighbor participating in the design and ownership of the dock. So I think we just need to be careful about the assumptions that we're making, because I think they are kind of loose and they might be important.
Yeah, I don't think it's a condominium. I don't think it's an association. So I would stick with the terminology of a shared use. And I think that helps avoid some of those possible issues.
The other condominium owner ought to be involved in this, because he might step forward at some point and say, hey, where's my dock? I didn't agree to share with this guy. So just that, I think it could be kind of sticky.
The applicant owns 3 of the 4 units, and the 4th unit is what the other boat is. Anyway, is there possible to get a guidance from the board as to what the tipping point might be between a slight increase or modification versus where the tipping point is, what you would consider a major alteration?
Substantial.
Substantial, yes.
That's the word.
Thank you.
Oh, I see you have Pete raising his hand. Let Pete ask the question first. Pete?
And so anyways, I'm just going to concur with our masters, both Abedili and Gilmore. Gilmore gave great recommendation there. I also think, my boat is small, but that small boat should have no trouble on the inside, and a 6-foot width, even at 256 square feet, I think gives you the length. It gives you ample length, I think, then. And then Louise's comment that, well, we are not assuming this is an association dock. This is I'll say a single property dock. It's a single property of which 3/4 of it are owned by a single individual. So I am at this point, without further information, agreeing that it deserves more than we would give to a single ownership dock. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
We're already at 256 when 200 is in your reg. So that's why I'm saying is, how big can I go before I hit the tipping point of a substantial increase?
Well, if you have grandfathered at 256, you're lucky. Essentially got grandfathered in that. So I will let Tom speak to a substantial point, but you are lucky with 256.
Okay.
If you have the 256, you can keep using the 256. If you want to redo the layout and get a slight increase, I don't know what the exact number is, but if you say talking about 300, we can entertain that. I don't think that we, at this point, can make any commitment in terms of the square footage for you. You have to lay the system out and lay out the flow and how much do you need. Then we can make our determinations. Because right now, all we're only talking about is just what we're thinking and what you're thinking. We don't have that kind of, guideline per se. What is that substantial? We have to look at what is the structure and what is the layout of the floats in order to make our determinations. So
okay, I think I have guidance to take a stab at it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just say one thing. So if it's a 256 now, if you take 2 feet off the side, it's 32 feet long. That gives you 64 more feet to work with in length.
Right.
Potentially. So that's probably a pretty good guideline.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, George.
So before I go any further, Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None? So, Mark, we need a continuance. We have May 14 and May 28th. Or do you need more time? How much time do you need?
Why don't let me look at my phone. As far as my schedule, it is smarter than me.
So I have May 14, 28, and June 4th. And I think you should look at your revised layout and then thinking about, going in front of the waterway to get the feedback before coming back, because otherwise we go back and forth.
Right, I agree. when, anybody have an idea when Waterways meets again?
I think it's once a month.
It's
Yeah.
probably June. Right? Or
Probably.
Yeah.
when did you meet with them last time, Mark?
I met the day I filed, which would have been, when did I file this?
Oh,
April 23rd.
Yeah, so
So you
maybe,
probably- they may be in the end of May then.
Yep, I think so.
I'll have to ask. Why don't we go into June just to be safe? Because, I mean, I could probably do the 28th, but if the Waterways meeting is that week before, I'm going to be out of town. So the 28th might be cutting it close. We can try for it and I can bump it, or if you just want to go into, what's the next time in June, 4th?
June 4th.
Let's just do June 4th.
All right,
Yeah.
why don't we do that just in case? I've got shellfish tomorrow, and then why don't we do June 4th?
Okay.
Okay.
Could I have a motion to continue this application to June 4th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Dan Pooh,
Aye.
Tangney,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Last NOI is Gerald H. Casuals, trustees, the Nikki Lavalia Trust, to remove existing shorefront protection and replace with rock revetment at 188 Bay Shore Road, Hyannis, as shown on the Assessors Maps 325, parcel 085. Mark?
Yes, thank you. Mark Burgess again, Shorefront Consulting, representing the applicants for this project. I don't think anybody's on Zoom for this one. So I was approached by the owner or the trustee to see what I could do to sort of beef up the shorefront protection along the property. So I went out and looked at it. Obviously, to me, it's kind of a mess. It's a mishmash of things that have been thrown in there over the years. I didn't like it at all. And but I said, going up doesn't help you because water will just come in from the sides. So so after looking at options, what I decided to do was just come up with a regular, short, but properly designed rock revetment. A lot of the rocks that are there could probably be used to do that, but it's all going to come out. Put some filter fabric in, definitely take out the posts and the telephone poles or the pilings that are down there. Just take all that out and start over and do it right. Like I said, there's no height increase. It's landward of mean high water. And there's a heavy vegetated buffer. It looks to me mostly like Rosa rugosa or Virginia rose. I can't tell the difference. If towards the right hand, east side of the property, an excavator could probably reach over that, but I'm guessing they're going to have to go into the buffer to do the left side. So obviously, whatever buffer's disturbed, it would be restored. That's the premise of the project, really. So I'm ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any question from the commissioner?
I do.
Bill?
Yeah. I noticed that the southern side, it looks good. You stay above elevation 2, but then the northwestern side, your work basically goes below the mean high water, affecting the beach. And I just wondered, why can't you stay off the sandy beach and do it in a manner similar to the side to the south or west here? I mean, east on that map.
Yep. I don't have a good answer for you. I can certainly tuck that back, and it gets it out of that. I see that corner is like that. Now let's see, the way that it's drawn, if you will. I'm not trying to be tricky here. I'm just trying to be accurate. the black part of the stone is buried.
Mhm.
So actually the exposed stone is, all the exposed stone is landward of the mean high water mark. But in that particular location, the buried stone would be, if you were to draw a line like a seagull, then then it's under mean high water, if you will. So if you're concerned about that, then I can tuck it back in. Maybe we have to come in landward a little bit to maintain the same slope angle. It's a 1.5 to 1, which is typical. But yeah, I can adjust that if you feel strongly about it. No worries.
Thanks, Mark. George?
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, very typical, Bill, that would happen on a revetment like this, just because of the way you're following the contour of the land. Like Mark said, you could pull it back, but then you'd be digging the bank back too. So I just soon see it where it is, but I think it's a good project, and I think it would certainly be a big improvement there, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pete?
Yeah, I had an experience over the weekend of, and this will happen here as well, that someone with a revetment put a fence, a wood fence at the top of the revetment, at the top of the high water mark. Now, with rising sea levels, what that means is, at least what I saw this weekend, fishermen could not get out to a jetty that used to be accessible by a town way to water, but except for the low tide now, you can't get there because there's this big fence on the revetment. So Bill's observation that it would be nice to not build up into the high water mark with an increasing revetment, I agree, because I think we need to preserve lateral access of our shoreline to fishers and fowlers, but especially fishers, be they shell fishers or fin fishers. So I agree with Bill that if you can, which I'm pretty sure you could, is please don't be putting anything more within the sandy beach, or certainly not within the tidal range of mean high water. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Louise?
When I think about revetments, I worry about what's going to happen to the land on either end of it in terms of erosion, because you already have some protection there already, so maybe it's not as big a deal. But the minute you change the dynamics of the water and the currents and so forth along a strip of coastline by, say, putting in a revetment instead of what you've got there, you're changing what the currents and so forth are at either end of the revetment, and lots of times you get erosion at your neighbor's site. So what do you think about that? How are you going to guard against that?
Well, one thing you can do is you can work tapered returns into the ends, meaning instead of just stopping abruptly at a straight line, you can feather it back into grade at an angle. Now, it still means that where the property is protected, it won't erode, and right next to it where it isn't protected, it will erode, but you don't have to introduce a sharp angle if you don't want to. So I could taper, or we can certainly just make a note that says taper the ends, and I can feather them in. I think there's something else that this butts up against on the east side, but I know the land on the west side is open.
Yeah, well, it looks like I don't know what exactly you mean by feathering. It looks like from the image you have on the screen, it narrows down to the east. Is that feathering?
It's not really drawn that way, no. But if you look at the left side, if you look at the left side, it's kind of a straight line back to the to the grade, to the behind the wall. So instead of it being a right angle, then I would just feather it and turn it in a gentle angle to meet the shoreline instead of just turning 90 degrees and coming straight in. Does that
Do you
make
think that'll completely solve the problem, or do you think we're still talking about some, shall I say, danger in terms of the integrity of the neighboring shoreline?
No, my belief is that the revetments don't cause erosion on another property, and I know that goes against what a lot of people think, but it's simply the fact that where the property is protected, it doesn't erode, and right next to it, if it's not protected, it will erode. Now, there's some truth to that theory in bulkheads because they're vertical and they reflect wave energy, but revetments absorb it. If they're done right, they absorb it. So you should have a much more gentler transition of energy from where the rocks are to the neighboring property. That's why we prefer revetments, because they absorb. They don't just slam the water around.
Okay, so we would want to add to our qualifiers, should we approve this, that we want that there should be feathering at either end of the structure you want to put in, right?
Yeah, I definitely on the left side. I can look at my pictures. They're not on this machine. There's some pictures in the filing. Let me see. I think there's something else on the east side that we would just meet up with.
Yeah, the east side, that shape of land looks like it could be kind of in peril, really, in terms of erosion anyway.
Yeah, let me see here. Let me see what I see. Ugh, I can't tell. Well, at any rate, if we taper to meet adjacent grades, then or structures on either side, then we'll blend it. The idea is to blend them into it.
Right. So you can take a look at it later. And let me go to Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. I guess I'm just saying the same thing in simpler terms without all the technology terms. The rocks have fallen forward. We all agree it needs to be done. And I'm hearing, are you going to pull them back where the original rock wall was rather than trying to make it appear where they've fallen to? So
the exposed rock that's there now will just be replaced with a more orderly fashioned rock in the same place. I don't intend on going any further seaward than it is now. The toe stones will go further seaward than what's there because they have to.
Right, and work them back. Okay.
Right, when we're done, the exposed part of the stone shouldn't look any different than what it does right now.
Got it. So when Bill started this, you were saying that you'll pull it back. You're not going any further with the new wall. You're going to pull those rocks that have fallen back to where the original wall was, but I get what you're saying with the toe stones. Thank you.
There's no original wall there, right?
Well, there's rocks there, right? They've fallen forward.
It's never a wall. It's just put there as it stands now, right?
Yeah, it's just rocks piled on the shoreline.
And it's how it
But you're going to make a wall in front of the rock pile rather than pull it back into the rock pile?
I don't intend on going any further seaward with rocks that you see than what you see there now.
Got it. Thank you.
So, Mark, a couple questions. So,
yes.
Your construction access is from the landward side, right?
Yes.
And I saw that you have a construction protocol, and there will be a pre-construction meeting with the staff to go through how to achieve these projects. Correct?
Yes.
And I think, before I go to Darcy, I think we need a revised plan showing the location where you're going to taper off, and to minimize the intertidal area, like we talk about it with Pete and Bill. Darcy, you want to say something?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Tom. I was just going to state, I was going over the boilerplate or the special conditions that we should be adding. So you already covered the prior to start of work, pre-construction meeting. As far as, I would usually have conservation agent, project engineer, and contractor. I don't, let's still, to be on the safe side, have the shellfish biologist come, because the question is, I always want to make sure that a work limit line is set in place before that pre-construction site visit. So they actually stake where they would have to have any equipment in that area to work on the toe stone part of it. So Mark, before you have the pre-construction, you have to talk to the contractor and set the stakes and then no other work is going beyond those stakes. They'll see materials shall not be stockpiled in the intertidal zone. Revetment rocks shall be natural granite, no sedimentary type rocks shall be permitted. Revetment stones shall be placed as tightly as possible with each stone touching its neighboring stones. 6 to 12-inch stone tailings or fractured stone shall be used to tightly fill any gaps between the revetment stones. No loose chinking stone will be allowed to remain on the wall face. Any loose chinking stone at the base of the wall or on the beach shall be removed prior to the completion of the job. The elevation of the bottom toe stone should be confirmed by the engineer / surveyor for certificate of compliance. And it sounds like we want to add the condition about special condition, the toe stones will not go out any further than the current rock that are there.
The exposed stone.
The exposed stone.
Yeah. I think Darcy, he said the toe stones may go out a little bit further, but the exposed stone would be where the existing is. I think that's what Mark said.
Correct.
Okay, and let's see, we're not working from a barge. And those are the ones that I think we should be adding. Thank you.
Okay. And then you'll end to a special condition to taper the returns either into adjacent grades or adjacent structures if they're there.
I think they wanted that on a plan revision.
That will be on the revised plan.
Okay, I can do that.
It might be helpful to actually place a note on the plan of what we said about the location of the toe stone.
Yeah. Yeah, because you need to stake it down. You need to stake that for the pre-construction meeting. But one question that came to my mind when Darcy is reading that for the granite stone, and I'm not sure the existing stone can meet that requirement or not. I'm not sure.
I don't know where it came from. It looks pretty rounded. If I would say if the contractor feels it's unsuitable, then he has to take it out and replace it. I'm a fan. Maybe it's because I'm Scottish, but I prefer to use what's there, and if at all possible. But angular stone actually fits tighter and better than round.
Yeah, my guess is he's going to use that as just filling behind the wall. But
right. No, but
that's what I do.
Yeah, I understand. But what I'm saying is that when he is using the existing stone, which may not be granite that we asking for under this conditions, under the condition. That's what I want to point out. Okay. I mean, you can try to use the existing stone rather than stick to the granite stone. But
so you want me to take that special? We're not going to have the special condition that they require granite. The problem was we had a revetment project and the stone was all wrong and it started to actually shatter and break off.
Yeah.
So if you don't want that as a special condition for this project because it's site specific, I can remove that one and he can work with what he has there.
George, what do you say about that?
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, from what I saw, most of the stuff there is granite. But I mean, I would keep that condition, Darcy.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Darcy, keep that conditions and then say, or use the existing stone
if possible.
if possible. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Well, if some of the existing stone is already granite, then that's what they would use.
Right.
And still meet the condition.
But I'm saying that some may not be. I did not look at all the stone, but some stone may not be granite. But this way, by adding or use the existing stone that are not granite as necessary, that would cover it too, right?
Except you want to give them that, John. That was the question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, for my own understanding, I understand that you are going seaward with these toe stones, but they're going to be under the sand, under the beach. Does that mean that you're going to be excavating? Because you're literally working, in an area under. So there is some excavation, if you will, digging down in order to put the toe stones at a greater depth. Is that true?
That's correct. They need to have a foundation to sit on.
Yeah, I'm not objecting. You literally, you're going to dig out a trench, so to speak, and then put in these toe stones, and then they'll come back, and then, okay, thank you.
We'll cover them back up. They usually do these in sections. So he would do it. He would dig the trench, lay the toe stone, set the stones in place, and then take the sand and cover it again.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pete?
Yeah, George, this is more a question for you than to Mark. If there are stones there that are sedimentary or prone to failure and cracking, you wouldn't want them to be part of the wall, because if you lose a stone and a face, it would affect everything around it.
That's correct, Peter. That's why I say keep that condition.
Yeah.
He can use whatever is granite in there. I think most of it is. I wouldn't use any of that because it's all round and it's small, and it's actually more work than if you use you set a bigger stone, you cover a lot more area. So
yeah. George is an expert here. I would listen to him. I do listen to him.
I get it.
Most
of those stones are probably small enough that they'll end up being the secondary stone where the bigger stones go on top. But he'll pick and choose. The guy who builds it, he'll pick and choose what he wants, and he'll take out the rest. But I agree. I don't want drowned stones as part of a revetment. That doesn't work.
No. So Darcy, keep the granite special conditions.
Okay. Yeah. And the wording for the other part was toe stones will not go out any further than the current exposed stones.
No, you want to say that I thought the exposed stones shall not be further seaward than the existing exposed stones.
Right.
So the toe stones go out a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So let me go to the public comment. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the taper on both ends, and then with those special conditions we just talked about, the pre-construction meeting, the granite stone, and what else? Oh, the standard boilerplate that Darcy was mentioning on those special conditions.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Tangney.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Yep. We have one continuance, 294 Superior Road Realty Trust to construct a driveway at 294 Superior Road, Austinville, as shown in Assessors Map 095, Parcel 011. This is a continuance from April the 30th, and just waiting for the issue of the DEP number. And the quorum is every commissioner. So the DEP has issued the number as SC3-6188. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing and authorize the staff to issue the ordered conditions?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangny,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. We have two sets of minutes, April the 2nd and April the 16th.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Roll call.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangny,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Our next hearing is at 6:30 on May 14th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Second.
or aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Tangny,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
We're adjourned at 5:05, Mr. Chairman.